Um, the things I'm going to share with you tonight are very important to me. Honestly, well, they're my testimony, and I don't really even need to preach based off of just my testimony alone. I think that holds a lot of weight, and I think that's what I am supposed to do. But I am going to have a little bit of something. I'm going to try my best. So I'm 23, and I've only been saved for about a year and 8 months. And coming to salvation was one of the most difficult but rewarding things I've ever experienced in my life. And I've done some pretty cool things. I've wrestled 17 years, 2-time state champion, done some crazy stuff, fought in the cage a little bit professionally.
Wow.
It's not that cool. I lost, so, getting punched in the face, I quickly changed courses, and then joined the military. But before then, my childhood wasn't the greatest. Now, I know that my parents are going to watch this. I love them so much. They have done a lot for me. But, like everybody else, our lives aren't always easy. And I struggled with a lot of stuff, depression, anxiety. I mean, you name it, I had it. And I still deal with it today, a little bit of it. Now, with Jesus, it's a little bit easier to get through, actually a whole lot easier. But going through it in the beginning, it isn't very easy. And without Jesus, it's not very easy at all, because you have nobody. You have yourself, and you can't make it. Now, the magnitude of things that happened when I was a kid, they're a little graphic. I can't go into so much detail, but about 7 to 8 years of my life, from 7 years old to 14 years old, roughly in that range, somebody took advantage of me as a kid. And it put a lot of... when I got saved, I became a baby. So I'm going to try not to get all emotional. But with all that stuff that happened to me as a kid, it put such a strain on me that I thought that I needed to be this person that nothing could faze. Like when I joined the military, I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. So that was the mindset I tried to embody as a 14-year-old kid. It doesn't go very well. By the time I was 16, I wanted to kill myself. There was things that I put in place, and I got pretty close. I don't want to share too far, but I got pretty close. Actually, more than close. And 16 years old, almost being addicted to certain things, and it isn't the greatest look. And when your dad's in the military, and you have to hide everything because that's the way he teaches you. You have to, which isn't bad. I wish I would have learned a little bit more. The only person that I had in my life was my grandpa. My grandpa Gene. He was the only father figure I had, and then when he passed away, my life really kind of went down because I had nobody, and I based everything off of what I thought being a man was off of him. So when he passed away, I thought I lost it all because it was the only person that I knew. The only person I could talk to or, just confide in. He was kind of like my Jesus without having Jesus, kind of. And people that know him, kind of understand, what he can do in somebody's life. And now back to my whole dad and all that stuff. It put there's a lot of ego and pride and tension between him and I. Because I'm the firstborn, whatever all that means. My wife likes to say stuff like that. The type of person I am, it's because you're the firstborn. But with that, I can see kind of what she meant in certain elements. And I'll get into my relationship problems that I put her through here in a minute. But I feel like a lot of people at the church, they look at me and they have like a high thing, which I'm very grateful for. I tried really hard to get, to the point that I'm at. I put a lot of mending, spent a lot of time at the altar, and just so much building within myself, and I have such an amazing team. I do want to give some flowers out to the people that have surrounded me and built me up, because I couldn't have done it without a lot of the people here. Pastor John, he has poured so much into me. I don't even know, I don't have very many words to describe, because I've never had somebody that is willing to go out of their way and, go somewhere. This is kind of all over the place, but it's okay. He came to me in a jail. I spent some time in jail, 3 months. I can go into why, at least on the stage, so if you have questions, I am okay with sharing. But I did get in some trouble in the military, and they kicked me out. Yeah. And with that, now we're here, right? But in the midst of all that, your pastor, our pastor, my pastor, came and went all the way down from here to San Diego to the brig to visit me. And sent me letters and had conversations. I mean, there's not many people like that that's willing to go and then pour into me, and I told him first before he started telling me, but I told him that I think I have something on my life and I don't really know how to describe it, and he said he had some stuff, He didn't explain because he didn't want, obviously, some wisdom in that, but, with all that, I'm very grateful to have you in my life. And so is my wife and Jill as well. I don't know if she's here right now. Well, I'll tell her after. Then Pastor Al, I don't know if a lot of people know, but I've known him since I've been in diapers. Which I don't know him. Like, I didn't know him at the time, but I just was in diapers. But he knew me. He knew my grandpa. He spent a lot of time. I've been fishing with him a few little times. I don't really remember all that much. A lot of pictures. But him as well, he shared so much wisdom in my life. I have Brian Congress. Small, time I spent with him, but he has impacted my life so much. A lot of these guys I wish to be like the men that they are for when I go down this road. And then Rich, right? He's done a lot in the short time, honestly, more than I deserve. He's given me a job. A lot of wisdom. We've had some conversations that, if you know Rich, they're pretty crazy. But it's having somebody like that. There's not many people like these guys. And then Ron, or Coach, everybody knows him, Coach. But he's done a lot for me as well. The first time I met him, I think we were at a blast. That's what it's called, right? We sit down and we have like the cool little table talks. I don't think it's there anymore, at least right now. But I got to share a little bit of my testimony, and I was crying like a baby and all that stuff. And he was kind of sitting all like a stoic in the back and just kind of analyzing everything. And then we had a conversation, and he started like ministering me, like microdosing, ministering into me. Which microdosing is not a good term. But the whole reason why I know it is because I did a little bit of stuff, because it was fun, some party times. But it's not. It's really not fun. It actually opened up my mind and my heart, and this is my segue into my salvation and how I came to God. But it opened up my mind. This is some psychedelic stuff. You know what they do? They kind of, some magic, And it is magic. And what it was doing to me was opening up my heart, my mind, and my soul to a supernatural realm that I was not allowed to be in yet. And the things that I felt like attached to me made my depression, my anxiety, and everything so much worse. Where when I went on a deployment, in March of 2023. I chose to starve myself and try to put myself into kidney failure. And I promised Haley in the time, because I don't know why I did that, but I did, that I would read the Bible. And so while we're out to sea, because I'm in the middle of the ocean, being in the Navy, which sucks, by the way, I don't recommend it. But being out there, there's nothing. I can't contact people. There's nobody there willing to help me. I mean, the military is such a secular place to be. There's nothing good there. Everybody, I mean, the way to make it up in the ranks is to stab somebody in the back, and that's just the reality. At least in the military now. I wish it was way back when everybody was like, gung-ho, let's go fight for our country. It's not that anymore. It's not. And with that, I was alone. A lot darker life than I realized. And with opening the Bible, I just treated it as a book at the time. And even with treating it as a book, God still decided to move with me opening the pages. He kept me. I went 6 days without food or water, complete no liquids at all. Which I heard that 3 days is what that's the norm. 3 days and, your body is done. I went 6 days. Maybe it's because I'm a big guy and they're like, hey man, you got a little bit more water, but I don't really believe that. They say, Naked and Afraid, I watch that a little bit sometimes. And, they're always fighting for water, trying to get some water. Well, the whole time, I was receiving water, the living water, the whole time. And I didn't realize it. I didn't even realize it. God was under my nose the whole time. I was just reading these books. I was reading the Bible wrong. Because I'm an analytical thinker, I was reading trying to read the whole front to back, and it kind of doesn't really work that way sometimes, You don't really understand when you're trying to just jump into the Bible and you're reading like Genesis, you're like, man, this is really boring. I don't really know why I'm even doing this. It's like the worst book I ever read. It's different now, Recant that statement. It's a little different now. I love this book, I swear. But in the time, I hated every second of it because I realized that this book was turning into a mirror. And it was reflecting who I was as a human being and how disgusting and terrible I was, because in the whole time that I was out to sea, or I'd be back home and she would be doing something, I was on my phone being unfaithful. Being a complete, not so good words. Just not being what God calls us to be as a man. It was bad. And in the time that when I come back and she got me into this church down back where we're at, and there were some people there that really kind of grabbed me and was forming me a little bit, just what I needed to understand more of what I'm capable of as a human being, and giving my life value. And then I can't remember what month it was. I think it was June maybe of 2023, same kind of time span. June, she shows me these weird church videos that are super old of these skits that people do back in the day. This is crazy skit, man. They're doing some crazy stuff, dancing. But the way it impacted me, we were getting, I think it was McDonald's. We were eating McDonald's, and I was bawling, crying. I don't really cry. The way my dad was, he's hey man, if you have emotions, you just turn the channel. And you keep turning that channel until you have no more channels, and you just go buy a new TV and keep turning channels. That's just the way it was. I wasn't allowed to have emotions. My dad, he was good at teaching how to be a leader. And it worked. It's awesome. I'm thankful for it now, but now I have the wisdom to learn that I've learned how to be a man, especially a man of God, and now that I have this leadership that my dad instilled in me, I was the greatest leader, but it had no substance. Because I didn't even know how to lead my heart or lead myself. I was kind of like somebody, like something would pop up here, some less stuff would pop up here, and I would go run to it, and that would be like my, that's just whatever. But with the skit, it was like, I don't even know. The way it impacted me was crazy because it was the skit. I mean, you guys probably all have seen it. It's pretty common. It was the one where this lady, and you have Jesus, right? And this lady she's going through life. Jesus brings her and brings her out, and then Jesus is walking through with her, and all these new little things pop up. You have the different temptations and all this stuff, and they're attacking her. And the way Jesus responds in the moment where he kind of takes a step back and watches and analyzes her be consumed by this. And it's her choice, obviously, showing the free will of what we have. And he steps in when she reaches out. And that moment was when it was like, oh man, something's happening in my heart. And then, I start crying like a baby, like hyperventilating crying. And then she goes ahead and like, oh, I might just keep going. So she gets on YouTube, clicks in, she knows I like music. So she clicks into this video of this guy, which is like kind of nerdy. I mean, it's more of a nerd video, but I think it's pretty popular, right? Yeah. And so this guy, this pastor, I don't know who he is, so I'm sorry. It was a little while ago. But he's showing basically the sovereignty of God and how the works that he does in the world. By making how God orchestrated the whole world to work in unison and how everything makes music, how everything worships God. You had and then into whales and how the trees make, and then went into the stars and how these different stars have a certain beat, and they beat at a certain speed, and it creates like this orchestra. And then rolled in the humans, and they were singing, I can't remember the song, but man, what it did to me was crazy. I couldn't even look up at, I had so much humility just roll on to me and grief that I couldn't even bear to look up into the world. I was so taken back and sucked into basically God opened the door of my closet in darkness. The whole thing just fell off. All these skeletons that I had. And then a week goes by. It's more than a week. Kind of dwelling on this stuff that she gave me. And in September 23rd at 3 a.m., it's pretty particular. But what it did, it was insane. I woke up from a dream, and this dream was, I struggled a lot with wanting to just get out of the world. It was easiest. And God finally, and this is true, this is really God. Not necessarily where, I heard the figment of his voice. He was walking me through what happened if I would go and proceed within my life. And what everybody, and then he piled on the grief of everybody that loved me. Because I didn't know what love was. I didn't know what emotions were. Because I turned the channels, so I forgot to learn emotion. And with that, the grief that rolled on me, which I'm so glad God did it this way, where he made me go through my grief and grieve my own sin, because I would have just smothered myself with pride. Being like this, wow, I'm saved, I'm better than you now because I have this thing. Well, God knew me. I was prideful. Man, if the sky was blue, but I thought otherwise, you couldn't tell me otherwise. If I thought the sky was green and you told me it was blue and the scientists were all out there trying to tell me that the sky was blue, I wouldn't. You're wrong, buddy. I see that it's green and that's the right way. That's just how it was. And it was bad. I'd go to places that serve stuff, but you have to be 21 and older. And I would just go and get in some trouble because somebody would move something that was mine. Or I would go to these places and hit on somebody's lady so that I can invoke a response. is where how messed up I was as a human being. And then when I, meet Haley, I like to roll back some before I go completely diving into what's saving me. Because I want people to understand who I was and what God's done. Because that alone, to me at least, it's the only miracle, at least from how I see now, is the only thing that really, it opened up my eyes, and I'm so grateful for this miracle. And I've seen some crazy stuff, but, the human being that I chose to be, cheating and all that stuff, to a person who, you guys all know Haley. She's an amazing person. I always get told that she's going to marry the youth pastor, and they're going to go off and do youth pastor stuff, and, whatever. But I was so bad that I wanted to disprove that Jesus is real. I was terrible. It was bad. I was like, that's malarkey. Every time we get into an argument, she'd try to bring God, and I'm like, why do you even do that? It's ridiculous. He can't help me. He can help you, that's cool. But I'm not listening, buddy. And that's just the reality. And it was bad. Because I shut her off, and then I made it to the point where she started sliding into the world. I was taking away basically the salvation that she had, making her lose her faith, because I chose to try to destroy her. I set out to make that my goal. And it's crazy, many of you guys are like, wow, this guy's trash. But, it's the truth. Right. It is the truth. And I think not a lot of my family even knows the stuff I've done to Haley or anything like that. Never did I lay hands or anything like that, but unfaithful, yeah, many times. Never physical, just a little, whatever. But she stuck by me the whole time, and I can't wait until she gets to do her little testimony on her side of this. Because when I then gave my life, like I said, this September 23rd at 3 a.m., 3:15, 3:14. In this dream, I, hung myself in the bathtub. And God is displaying this and allowing me to watch it out of my outer body. And then I got to feel what death would feel like, and what death would be like separated from God, and how true loneliness, isolation, how that actually feels. And what I was feeling was nowhere near the magnitude of what that actually feels like. Being separated truly from complete, any emotion. The emotions that I was feeling, they're small. I wasn't tuning in, that's the only thing. But I was feeling a little bit. The love and stuff that He basically put on the burdens and made me hear and sent me through like this vision and like this little kind of movie of what happens with Haley when I would go and do this, how her life would turn out, where she would go. And then he showed my mom. How then she would later go take her life because I took my life. And then she would have never got saved. Now she's not going to heaven. Then he went on and, hit me with more soft spot. At the time I didn't really, care about a whole lady and stuff. I could always go get another one. That's my mentality. And I could just, it's this lady, go get another one, it'd be easier. But he hit me with the soft spot at the time with my little brothers. Now, my littlest brother in particular, Kyan, he completely destroyed his life in this dream. Went to drugs, went around and completely just on the street, and then he went and ended his life. In a way, in a fashion that is, crazy. And I got to see, this was all displayed. My other brother didn't really care. He kind of just slid it off and was like, this is what my life is. My middle brother Ty, that's kind of how it was with him. It was kind of like he cut himself off from the family, and that was it. He slid into a hole and just was like his own little thing. But kind of the one that hit me because the conversation that he was having with God in the midst of what was happening, and he still didn't give his life to God in the moment. He just said, why did you forsake me? Why did you allow all these trials and tribulation in my life? I don't even deserve it. And I had to go through this, and basically he's like, why did you give me a brother that couldn't take care of himself? Give me a brother that couldn't teach me how to be a human. They grew up in the same house. They didn't get, a dad and a mom that was all the way functional all the time. And they looked up to me because I tried my best to be something. And I hid all the bad stuff because I thought that was what I had to do. And I wanted to try, Don't recommend it to try. It's not that cool. But with the stuff that, him saying all this stuff, he just said, I wish that you would touch him in this. I wish that you would have been in his life. And maybe, just maybe, it'd be different. Maybe the trajectory of his life would change. And then he went about and, messed around with drugs and went a little too far and ended up, what happens when you take too much. And I say all that stuff because, I feel like everybody needs to know. And I think it's our responsibility as Christians to share testimony. And with the salvation, I wake up and I'm learning to pray because I don't know how to do it. Because I'm like, wow, that was crazy, and I think that that's God. I think that God was talking to me for real that time, and I didn't know what to do. It didn't get easier either. When I said yes to God, it got a whole lot worse and very fast. That following week was crazy, but when I gave him, I was like, bro, I called him bro and dude. He's like, dude, whatever I need to say, if you just want to take my life over, I'll try my best at being a Christian, whatever that means. I'll follow you the best of my capability. I'll try to stop doing the fun stuff, the worldly fun stuff, and I'll do my best to be as faithful as possible to my life. Well, with that, it's crazy because God was working through me the whole time, and I'm going to kind of glance back a little because there's some purpose, and I wanted to set a little bit of what it is. But I didn't gain the perspective of what God was doing in the back. I bought this truck. It was a 1983 Ford Ranger. I'm a big guy. I had a tiny truck. It was sick. It was the coolest truck. It had a carburetor and it was doing all the gadgets, gizmos. The guy was like, he was like some pilot or something, and he got the whole engine redone by Ford. It was insane. The thing was cool. But none of the radio didn't work. Actually, the only channel that worked was Caleb. It was crazy. So I was sitting there and listening to these testimonies, and the only thing that I don't like, is obviously they're a Christian thing. They have to ask for offerings and stuff. But at the time, I was like, man, that sucks. I rolled right into the season where they're like, every time it's like, hey man, give $5, that'd be cool. Man, this is lame. And then I heard all the Christian music because that was all I had, and there was some, there was some pops, there was some crazy music. It was pretty sick. And then there were some ones that are pretty whack. Some of the Christian music, some of it can be kind of whack. Sorry, brother, that's just the truth, right? Some of it kind of hurts my head a little. But with that, there was this one testimony, and at this time we were trying to have a kid. Baby. Obviously, now you see the little sets in and stuff. This is an answered prayer. But we were having some trouble. It wasn't like this. This lady's testimony was crazy. 14 years, she couldn't have a kid. She tried everything. I think it's IVF, right? She was 40 times or whatever it was. All this stuff, doing the natural way, the way that everybody likes, trying to get this stuff going for a long while, and it didn't, it wasn't working. I needed the IVF and all this like chemical science stuff that they're mixing, all this stuff in the mixing pot, and you're gonna get like a, whatever happens with that stuff. And I don't know how it works. But with that, 14 years goes by. She can't have a kid. Her last choice was to pray to God. 2 months later, she then has a baby. She finds out that she's pregnant. And it flourishes. I mean, it lives. This baby's out now, doing whatever this baby's doing. But I was like, man, I could probably try a little bit of this prayer action. So I went about and I, did some prayer action. I was in that little truck in the front, parked in my garage before I was coming inside, because I was ashamed that I was praying to something I didn't even believe. I was like, man, this is whack. This guy's not going to hear me, and it's kind of baloney. But it's, far from the truth. I wasn't even a believer, and I find out the next day that we're pregnant. Coincidences or whatever, if that's what you want to believe. But now looking back, to me, it's not a coincidence. I asked for a miracle. To me, childbirth is a miracle. You heard Pastor John's testimony with his kids. I'm glad I don't have to go through it. But that's an amazing testimony, and what God has done in that is insane, because these kids are some of the greatest. I wish I was a little bit of that, even to today. Wanting a birthday present of like office supplies. If I had a little bit of that organizational stuff, my life would be awesome. But I don't, with what God done in the moments up to what was happening, I was so ignorant and blind that, it wasn't. I just didn't believe that was God. I couldn't. And when I give my life and I see all this stuff, he then sends me down this road of like, man, he was deleting my pride from like changing my whole life. Like my makeup, I had to sit up every single night because we were going through some it was crazy. When I said yes to God, the demons that would come, and I'm serious, some demons. My house was under attack spiritually. Haley could barely even be in the house because she kind of knew what was going on. She knew that these things were like happening, and like the things that these entities, these demons, the demonic stuff was telling me to do to my family and myself, and just like obliterate the house kind of stuff. Stuff that you as a human normal person would never even you couldn't think of. And I had to sit up every single night. I couldn't go to sleep. I had to sit and pray and ask God to just give me peace. Help me through this. I can't make it. I can't do this without you. I can't make it through this either. I can't make it through the night without you. I'm tired of listening. Can you protect me from these things? Because they would come up and attack me and shake me and hit me and run away, and they were just tearing my house up. It was insane. And I finally make it through this week. And man, when I walk outside, the way that the sun hits me and I hear the birds and the trees and the wind, and it was music. It was the most beautiful thing I ever experienced. And I've seen some cool stuff. Being out to sea and anybody that's been in the ocean or been on Jeremy, I don't know if you've ever been on a thing, but a Mew. You been on a Mew? No. Oh, well. Yeah. Well, when you're out to sea, you're past all of what, we have done as a society to the world. You don't have the light pollution, all this weird gas stuff. You're in the middle of the ocean and you get to see the works of God, and it is incredible. It's the greatest thing I've ever seen. The way that, the stars light up the ship, you don't even need lights. Because in the ocean, in the military, we shut all lights out. You can't have all your lights on when you're out to sea. And we're doing flight ops at night where these jets are coming in and bouncing off the thing, and we're just like, they're doing cool stuff, I was a little grunt, so I didn't get to do the cool stuff. I was kind of running around, carrying this little hose, running out, clicking it in, feeling this thing. And then I got like an upgrade and moved to medical and did start doing medical stuff. But say all that because I missed that because I wasn't listening to God in the moment. I wasn't taking the time to really understand what God was doing in my life, because He was moving so much, and maybe it was just a me thing, and that's just how He worked in my life, which that's pretty cool. Now I get to look back on it, and it was some of the greatest experience that I've ever experienced. Because it's just breathtaking stuff that I don't get to forget. But I wish I was saved a little bit when I was younger, because then I wouldn't have done some of the crazy stuff. And that's kind of like a little, the basis of my testimony. And I wrote a little sermon. I don't really know how to write a sermon. I kind of just wrote everything down on pieces of paper. And I probably won't go off of it. I kind of just will kind of lean a little. But before I get there, I'd like to pray us in before we jump into the Word. I'm going to be in Matthew 11. But please bow our heads and get this going. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my testimony in front of all these people. Thank you for being so merciful. Just being so loving and showing so much grace in our lives. Lord, I pray that you guide this conversation, that you move in this room, that you shower your presence on these people here tonight. And I pray that you sanctify our hearts, our minds, our souls, that you grow us and spiritually, build us up as human beings. In Jesus' name, amen. Sweet. So I'm in Matthew 11. And I'm gonna be down at verse 28. I'll be reading verse 28 to 30. Before I get there, a little bit of context. So this is, if you're not familiar with the Bible, this is the more important stuff, the red words. So this is where you kind of have to listen a little bit. This is where Jesus is actually. This is the main guy. This is the guy. Jesus is speaking with. And with this, before here, he was his people were in Galilee. His disciples and them were in Galilee, and they just came out. Now this is the response. This is the response of all that, them coming out of Galilee, all this stuff that was going on. And before, in verse 25 down to 28, he was basically going through and, from 20 down, he was going through and kind of going through a rant on how bad, everything was going. Like, that place sucked. You got, religious leaders, just not a very good place, And he goes ahead and does his thing, and then after all that, he gives a very, very powerful, little speech here. It all is a powerful speech, but this one is in particular, it's very individually, it's a promise. He's promising something that's very particular to these people. And these people are, the feeling that they have is they're, heavy. The labor that they've been through, the things that's going on, their faith is just not there. It's dead. They're kind of just, the religious leaders are pushing this stuff on them, and they're just not good enough. They're kind of just dead. And this is what he says in verse 28. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Now with this is, obviously with that, that's like the normal, everybody loves this one, because it's like this, perfect for evangelizing, if you have this stuff going on, this is the verse for you kind of thing. Well, we lose sight of how powerful it is. It's almost like how when you say, how much you love your wife every single day, and it's, don't throw a knife at me on the stage, but, it's, you kind of like, over the time, you just say, like, I love you. It's a normal thing. And people kind of do that with this verse. But in the reality, it's so much more than that, because what Jesus is saying that he's basically giving you something that you can take for the rest of your life, but people lose sight of it. They don't come back to it. Like once they're saved, they're just like, man, that's it. Now I just pray and do this stuff, and I kind of just go through my motions. Well, you can kind of take this particular thing to the next level, because he's constantly wanting you to bring these things to him, bring these burdens and stuff that you put on yourself from the world, whether it's depression, anxiety, work. I'm working with Rich right now, and man, like I didn't complain with him because that's kind of whack, but he's putting me through the ringer a little bit. I'm like the little guy that's running around. He's like, sweep this up. I got you, bro. Go do this, pull this all out. And I'm by the end of the week, I'm like, man, my back is hurting. I thought it was like, I might just ring the bell a little and take a day or two off, and whatever. Same with this, right? Man, I was saying yes to this. I thought it was the biggest mistake in my life. I was terrified. I texted him, and he's like, giving me this little pep talk, like, you're going to be awesome, dude. And, if you suck, it's okay. We'll get a second chance, or maybe we'll just kind of sweep you in put you in the back room, and you can kind of talk to people in the dark a little. He didn't actually say that, but, that's what I got. The vibe I got is like, we'll just throw you in the prayer room, and you can kind of disciple a little bit to somebody who might not listen all the way. But with that, I am doing this one first as a sermon for me mostly, because this is the verse that was the first thing that I read when I got saved. This is the first thing. She was giving me the time. I was making sure that I was. Anyways, she threw me off. Man, I shouldn't even got married. I'm just kidding. It's a joke, right? No, but in all seriousness, right? This was the first thing that I read as a new Christian. As this guy, I put on my little Christian pants, and I was ready. I was ready. This is the first thing that I read, and I didn't really know what I was reading, because the way I went in, I was like, man, I don't even know what these guys are throwing. The church I was at, like, oh, what denomination are you? I'm like, I don't even know what that means. I like, Oreos and I eat Takis and stuff. Is that kind of what you meant? But that's not at all, denomination. Then I kind of went in a rabbit hole where I was like, Baptist, all this stuff. And the way that they do things, they it's always like this. The Hebrew translate, this is what it means and this, but it's so much more significant than, when those, sometimes people take the sovereignty away from God and they just read what's in there, and then they go and interpret what their heart wants, and not what Jesus was actually meaning. And the people that he was trying to reach, it's just the low people. He's always reaching. He's reaching in, going into the brokenness people, reaching into empty buckets and pulling out and making these amazing things. That's just his nature. I look at this a little, kind of trying to just figure out this. I look at this and these are the people that have, they're working on their faith. They're at a point, they're believers, but they're dealing with little things that are just keeping them away, and everything's testing their faith, trying to just separate them from God in any way. This is kind of like what the people that he's reaching. And even with that, you have people like John the Baptist. John the Baptist, if you don't know, he's the greatest prophet in the Bible, at least from what I understand. And even him, Matthew 11, verse 2 to 3, but you don't have to go there, I'm just going to go there real quick. This is when John the Baptist is going, and he's in jail. He's in prison right now. Who knows? I mean, he's been there for a minute. But he's going through, and he's out there, and he's questioning if Christ is even, the Messiah. John, the greatest prophet, is questioning if Christ is even the guy. Crazy. How can that be? That's like a normal guy. He was out there, poking into all these people, discipling to everybody. And he still is like, man, I don't really know. I'm in jail. And these guys are about to kill me, I think. Where he's supposed to deliver me. Because the concept of what they thought in this time, they thought that Jesus was going to be the Messiah that they thought was going to come, was going to overrule the Romans, was going to run through and create this political change that would save the Jews. That just wasn't necessarily what was happening. Jesus came in, his goal was to spread the word of the kingdom of heaven. What is to come after. So that way we can all be born again. And then when he comes in and wipes everybody away that isn't supposed to be, or take us up in the rapture, and I get to go and dance around in heaven or whatever. When all that stuff happens, that's when the reality of what they were thinking was coming. So all these people that are going through the persecution and these tribulations, they weren't ready. Whoa, microphone, got the make a choke. But when they were going through all these things, they lost a lot of faith and hope in what was happening. They lost sight of the true thing that Jesus was there to do. And in this verse, Matthew 11:28, come to me. He's always asking. It's one of those, it kind of sounds like a Ponzi scheme. Jesus is out there, giving a subscription thing. I'm going to use some new terms, right? He's creating a subscription. It's like, hey man, you come to me, I'll take everything away. We'll walk hand in hand, I'll teach you, you just follow me. Life is good. Well, and that's the truth. Well, a lot of people didn't see it that way. They kind of went off and they didn't understand, like when he was going about and talking about, take my yoke upon you, he didn't really, he's creating vivid imagery. He uses that for a reason. And if you don't, it's kind of cool. When he's saying, take my yoke upon you, back in the day, these yokes would pull up these oxen, which would carry, these huge loads of stuff to get across. They needed to go somewhere, and they needed to bring whatever they were building. If they were building something, or just some heavy stuff. And they would take if they had a weaker ox, they would have the stronger ox on one side, and they'd put this yoke on, and they'd have a weaker ox on the other side. And this weaker ox would learn from the strong ox. It would learn how to grow and be strong, and learn how to walk and follow the stronger ox in this yoke. So now that they can be equally yoked, if they're in this, all they have to do is put this yoke on this ox. That's all they have to do. So he created this image because this is the time that he's in. So it's probably different for us if he was coming here and this is the message he's preaching. But in this, that's what he's saying. He's like, hey man, put this yoke on with me. I'm the greatest. Basically, this is my vernacular. I'm the greatest thing. I can solve all your problems. I take everything away from you. All you have to do is say yes to me. Accept me into your life, and I will take all what's holding you back. Your burdens, the things that are just, if you're going through your life and little stuff, financial problems, your depression, anxiety, all this stuff that holds you back in life, and you won't go further, Jesus is trying to take it away in this verse with all these people. And to us today. For me, when I see this, it's so impactful to me because obviously it's what I first read as a Christian. And it's like my salvation. That's the first thing that I got to see. And it was the only thing at first that brought me to I just had a hard time bending the knee to people. And this is what I needed to understand, and the way that he showed me. And when I said yes, just said yes, the one yes that he's asking for here. The magnitude of love that filled my soul and my body and my heart, everything that I needed, like mushy good stuff. Jesus gave it to me within an instant. I just had the faith that it would happen. And I mean, I couldn't ask for much more. The weight that was lifted off my body for just saying yes. I mean, it was life-changing within itself. A miracle within it. I didn't even know I was carrying that much weight. Man, it took I felt like a whole human being or an elephant jumped off my back, and I was kind of like 5 feet taller. Just what Jesus can do for us, you know? And now, near the end, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And he's basically telling everybody, he's giving the explanation of himself and what it feels like. Hey, it's not a 50-50 arrangement. The subscription isn't like, I'm going to put you in this yoke and we're going to do work together. So I'm going to take everything away from you so you don't have to deal with it anymore. So that when you walk in the life and you're learning from me, I'm going to sanctify your life. And now all you have to do is just go and you're learning from me, which the more you learn from him, you're going to want to glorify and worship and praise him, and that's just what is to come. And he's basically begging, not necessarily begging, but he's kind of like, you know, pouring his heart out for these people. When he rants, he's going off with a sick rant, you know, destroying these dudes, telling them that they suck. Then he hits them with this super soft. This just shows the mercy and grace that he has for us. And, you know, with the all I can come back to is everything that he's done in my life. Because I don't have the experience of everybody else. I just know what he's done for me. And all there is to do is to say yes. I mean, if you're in the place today where, you know, my week wasn't the greatest, you know, the guys at work just suck, or I just have been making mistake after mistake after mistake. I am sucking financially. I just can't do this stuff. And through this week has been a lot for me. I mean, going to Pastor John's house for like little counseling sessions in my life. Because her and I have been going through stuff. You know? Coming up here, I only came up here on a whim of what God put in my heart. This is the hardest decision I've ever made. Trying to walk in obedience to God. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. Saying yes and moving up here. And it's hard. I have to walk in this blind faith, and I don't know when this trial is going to end. You know, having no, you know, really sucking on money. Having barely a place, you know, to live. We're grateful for what we have, you know, but not a place to call our own. And we're just skimming by, you know. We're grateful for the work that we have. God has provided every step of the way. But it's just so hard to, you know, to see that. It's so hard to look past the trial that we're in. We get so close-minded and we see the trial and we're like, man, why aren't you moving, God? Why aren't you taking this away? But in reality, you're just not surrendering it to him. You're not coming to him. I choose to try to mend it and fix it myself because of the pride of my own person. That's just the reality. That's the truth. And it's so hard sometimes for me to come and you know, come to the altar, and I have to like go in this like mental deliberation, like, man, God, if I go to the altar, can you fix my problems? I'll just go up there and, you know, if I need to go up there in my underwear, I'll do it. I just need something. I need you to move a little. And that's so like minuscule the way to ask, right? Because I'm lacking the faith because I'm asking for this like weird deliberation. I'm not fully like surrendered. I'm just like, man, yeah, I'll do whatever you need. I don't need anything in return. Just tell me what to do and I'll jump. And I just sometimes, I don't know if it's just me, but sometimes I go and I'm like, man, I just need to have a conversation with God and be like, hey, I'll do this if you do this for me. That's not fair to him. Because he gave me so much. and I have such little faith that I have to go and make this like plan with him. When I can just, like he's saying here, come to him, all who labor. I'm laboring, buddy, and I'm not coming to you. You're the last person I go to. I'd rather go take ibuprofen before I pray for a headache. Why is that? My back's hurting, and I'm like, man, I need a back rub from my wife. You know, they're not very good, but she tries, right? Anyways, no, but like, it's okay. This is how our relationship is, right? You guys out here bickering and doing all, whatever. Hey, I'm letting you guys bear my burdens. This is what it is, right? You better take it on. That's what we're supposed to do as Christians, right? Yeah, so put that thing on. I know you guys are strong. Been doing this church stuff a whole lot longer than me. No, but on a serious note, like, I choose to ask her for help rather than going to God first. And he's telling me right here that all I have to do is go to him and he'll make my whole life easier within an instant. If I just believe in it, within 1 second, it's gone. And that's just the truth. And I don't really know how much time I have. I can't really see because it's so dark. And my eyes are kind of caught people up. Sweet. Sorry that's not like the most crazy cool. I got some labs and I have to share the word a little with the congregation. I really do appreciate this. And with that, I'd like to close this in prayer, and if God is speaking to you, I think we're going to do a little something up here at the altars. If you want to surrender something, do it. So, like right now is the time to give what you have that's holding you back this week. Finally, just lay it out and give it to God. Stop holding back and truly believe in what he can do. Because I'm telling you, the sovereignty of God, he will solve every single problem that you have in your life right now. If you believe. And I know that he will shower this place with the Holy Spirit because of the faith that everybody has in this room. I'm going to pray us out. Me? No, I didn't prepare. I would have. Alright, we got our heads. Lord, thank you. Thank you for everything that you do for us. Thank you for the opportunity to praise and worship you and glorify you every single day. Thank you for sanctifying our hearts, our minds, our souls. There is nothing greater that we can do other than to serve you. Lord, I pray that you fill this place with your presence. Anybody who is hurting, who has anxiety, depression, who is just on the verge and just so far from you, just be present in their life. With our faith in you make mountains move. That's what I believe. I have the faith of that. These people that are, whoever's in here that has these issues, Lord, move in their life. Thank you, God. In Jesus' name.
Thank you, brother. We are going to close out with an opportunity of prayer. Don't go too far. And we know there's a rule in investing. The number one rule in investing is don't double down on your mistakes, right? So I'll maybe teach you that later in the short stories. But in all seriousness, if we can't laugh together, then we don't know each other. You know what I mean? It's okay to have a good time in church. And that helps us understand we're all human beings. Nobody's different. I don't care if you're a pastor or an aspiring pastor or anybody else, it doesn't matter. You're a human being and you're going to learn life, right? And we're doing it together. I know I was thinking over there, I'm sitting in the spot today where I gave my life to the Lord, in 1986. And all I did was a service like this, an invitation to pray. Nobody even prayed for me, but my mom brought me up. She said, hey, do you want to give your life to the Lord this morning? I said, yeah, I do. And I got down. I'm not going to get down all the way because I may not get up, but I got down on my knee and I just kind of put my face in that chair and I talked to God. And I asked Him to forgive me of my sins. And I committed my life to Him, and that was it. Like, my life changed at 5 years old, 5 or 6, I don't know how old I was, but I know what year. And my life changed, the course of it changed. And I've never lived a day when I didn't walk with the Lord since then. Even in my mistakes, I couldn't ever outrun Him. You follow me? It's not a matter of being perfect every day and trying to say that, oh, now I'm perfect every day. I never outran God and His reality in my heart, His voice of the Spirit in my heart. And He has taken me through now 44 years. And He will continue to take me through until the end. So one of the things we like to always do everywhere, but also in Wheatland, is we like to have this time of prayer at the end. And as if you guys don't mind just standing up, our worship team's going to lead us. Really reflect. I mean, we can give God a few minutes, on a Sunday night. Let's take a little while here to reflect on the work that He's done in our hearts. And if there's anybody here that needs prayer, Haley, are you able to come up? Would you come up? And I just, when you minister the word, it's nice to be able to have the faith for people who need some prayer. When they hear your testimony, and you might be sitting there thinking, wow, that didn't apply to me. Well, guess what? It applies to somebody, and it always does. And if that's you, and if you want somebody to join together and just to pray together with somebody, I'm just going to ask them to kind of hang out over here on the side for this first song. And I'm going to invite you guys, if that's you, just make your way up during this worship time and have a prayer with these guys. Look, we're all believers. All of our prayers are powerful. But I know this, that without faith, and I tell you guys this all the time because it's in the Bible, we can't please Him. We can't please God. We can't do anything, and we can't expect God to move on our behalf. Jesus Himself, He goes into His hometown and He says, I couldn't do very many miracles because of their unbelief. And it wasn't because He lacked the power. It's because He operates in faith. That's how He connects to people. And so if the Lord is putting it on your heart to believe Him for something, maybe you're dealing with some of the things they talked about. And maybe you just want prayer tonight for something else. But when you minister the word, God gives you faith for others. And He gives you something of Him to impart to others. And so tonight, hey, these guys have been preparing. They've been preparing to minister and to share their faith with you and I tonight. And if you need prayer for any reason, I would encourage you to come and just allow them to join with you in prayer. And that's it, because it's the work of God that's going to do it in your life. And so, Lord, we just thank you again, and we just pray for open hearts to you as we worship you today, Lord. Give us in this room the ability to believe, even if we're struggling to believe in our hearts, even if we're doubting right now. Lord, we've heard of your transformation, your transformational power in the life of a person. And God, we know you want to do that for all of us. And so, God, we just invite you to minister your truth and love and hope to us tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. And let's just worship together as this happens.